Ah. Yeah. This is the life. I just need a pool girl. You know, with a little umbrella drink. Wouldn't that be nice? Look! Instant manifestation. Thank you so much. Life is so good. Isn't life good? Our theme this month is living the relaxed life, and I want you to know that I'm doing my part. Oh, I suppose I should do a talk, shouldn't I? What? Oh, fine. Here. Oh, that is stronger than when you build a first service. Jeez. How much rum do you think I can handle? Whew. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll suit up here and be all proper and ministerial. Summertime. You know, a friend of mine I just noticed down in Los Angeles is doing a talk series called Hot for God. Isn't that a great idea? I think we should do hotter for God up here because we're hotter than LA. So this morning I had one of those experiences where, you know, you think what's going on. I mean, I'm the senior minister. I should know what's going on, right? Especially about the Sunday service. And you got it all dialed in. You know what's going on, and then you find out you don't. And what that looked like was that this morning, Reverend Sue got up and was doing the platform stuff, and she talked about that. She mentioned that the talk title today was Silence. The Silence. I'm sitting there going, that's not the talk title I had in mind. See, we're doing a talk series out of our whole series for this whole year is from the Joyous Living Journal, which is a fabulous book. How many are working with this? At least a little bit, or have it, or yeah. It's available in the bookstore. For a very good price. It's a great book. And it's a daily meditation, a set of daily meditations, and it goes all the way through. So, but it had in here, at the beginning of each month, there's sort of a recommended, you know, if you're going to do this talk series, here are the 4 talks, you know, to do for that month. And the one today says, stopping the wild ride. And so I'm all ready to talk about stopping the wild ride, and she says we're talking about silence, because she went through when she built this at the beginning of the year and tweaked a couple of the talk titles just a little bit. And I didn't pay attention. So we're going for a wild ride. See, the thing, however, is that I was never really going to talk about stopping the wild ride either. So not only am I not talking about what I'm supposed to talk about, but I'm not even going to talk about what I was going to talk about. More rum, please. That's ginger ale, by the way, just so you know. No rum included. Whoever you are, I like you. I didn't see who said that, but Damien. The reason I'm not going to talk about stopping the wild ride is because we don't do wild ride in this community very much. Yesterday we had our board retreat, and it was facilitated by the wonderful Reverend Jeff Anderson, who comes over from Santa Rosa. And earlier he was talking to me about, you know, what needed to happen for the board retreat, what needed to be done. And he started talking about, you know, where are your problems in the church? You know, are your, how's your finances? They're fine. How is your attendance? It's growing. How does your board get along with each other? You know, who's the problem person on your board? It's like, don't really have one. You know, I'm probably it, but you know. But I'm not leaving, so. I know you guys keep making it hotter here, and now it's even smoky, but I'm still not leaving, so. We started working with this stuff, and he finally said, oh my God, he says, I've never worked with a church that's not in crisis in some area of their life. He says, now we can take, instead of working with the crisis and solving the problem, we can say, where do you want to go from here? How much more good do you want to have in this community? That's what we worked on yesterday as a board. And that's applause for you guys, because this is the community set this consciousness. You guys, all of us together, set that consciousness. That we don't have to deal with the wild ride. I love the metaphor that's in this book for the wild ride. The wild ride is the example they gave was a guy comes riding through town on a horse, just galloping as fast as it can go through the town. And a couple people yell at him, "Where are you going?" And he goes, "I don't know, ask the horse." We know people who do wild rides. There's a couple people in this community, but we know people who do wild rides, right? Some of you have had them in various portions of your life. And that wild ride is when the conditions and the emotions take over and they're running away with you, like that horse down the street. And rather than asking your spirit where you're going, the rider, we're letting the horse, the emotions, the out-of-control conditions and the emotions about them run us down the street. Have you noticed that those people like to enroll you in their drama? And they like to guilt trip you if you're not part of it? You should be concerned about this. It's big. It's real. Look at this. You ever see that? You ever notice that? Don't you care? What's wrong with you? If you love me, you'd care about this. Yes? Yeah. Word. Think about Jesus for a moment. Think about Jesus seeing a person who comes to him who's sick, needs some healing, and he'd sit there and he'd go, "My God, look at that leg! Oh my God, how long have you been lame? Oh, that's terrible! Been blind for what? Oh, that's terrible!" Would he have healed anybody like that? No, because the consciousness would have been in the problem, not the solution. And so when we get off the wild ride, the best thing you can do for that person in your life is be in the solution, be in the consciousness that knows that whatever that is will work out, will dissolve, will heal, will reveal the truth, which is the nature of God in it. That's the best thing you can do to get off the wild ride. Got it? Word? Take a breath. But as Arlo Guthrie said, that's not what I came here to talk to you about. What I came here to talk to you about was how good can your life get? How good can your life be? You want to play with that? Yeah. We're going to continue a little bit in the book, The Big Leap. I have bad news for you. You snooze, you lose. The first service cleaned the bookstore out of all the rest of the copies of this book. However, in fact, Diana got the last one. However, they're on order, so if you would like one of these when we finish talking, put your name on a waiting list in there, and they'll make sure you get one. We're going to work with taking a look at a model today of where we operate in our life, how we operate in our life, and how we can move into a higher level of operation. And we're going to look at through a model of 4 zones that we can operate in. Okay? 4 zones that we operate in. First one is called the zone of incompetence. The zone of incompetence is what I'm not good at. How many of you have something you're just not good at? And you know it. How many of you have lots of things, I do, that you're not good at? You know, don't ask me to do your brain surgery. You want to hire somebody else to do that. Okay? So we have zones of incompetence. Gay Hendricks, who wrote this book, gives an example of a friend of his who bills his time at $1,000 an hour. He's a consultant, bills his time at $1,000 an hour, bought himself for his home, a new $1,000 HP printer. He's not good at installing printers, but guess what he tried to do to save money? Yeah? Tried to install the printer. 13 hours later, 4 hours of it on tech support, on the phone with tech support, frustrated. He finally calls the college kid down the road, down the street, who's the son of one of his friends, and asks him to come over and help him with it. And in 1 hour, the kid has it installed. He tries to give the kid some money. The kid doesn't want to take the money. He finally gives him $100 and like that. So here's this guy at $1,000 an hour. He's just spent $13,000 of his time to not install a $1,000 computer and be frustrated. Not only that, he gets into a fight with his wife because she wanted to spend the day with him, and he was supposed to spend the day with her and the family. Instead, to save a little money, he was doing that. That's operating out of a zone of incompetence. Don't go there. Get somebody else who knows how to do it to do it. So that's number one zone. Don't spend time there. Number two is our zone of competence. And this is stuff we're decently good at. And so are a lot of other people. The zone of competence is where we can get stuck doing the small stuff, the majoring in minors, if you will. Doing the stuff that's really we shouldn't be doing, but we do it anyways. One of my favorite things in the workplace I used to listen to was, I delegate that, but I don't have time to teach that person how to do it. It's just faster to do it myself. You ever meet people like that? Yeah. Sometimes some of you are saying, oops, I'm that person. And we all have done that. It's just faster to do it myself. And one time it is, but over 20 times it's not. And the thing is that if we start to free ourselves up from just the stuff that operating in our zone of competence, we start to ask ourselves, what else could I be doing with my time that would be much more satisfying than this if I could free myself up from this? An example, a personal example. Many of you know that I just recently moved into a new home, and some of you know that new home does not have a dishwasher. And so, housework is not my joy. I'm competent at it. I can wash dishes as well as the next person, but it's not my joy. And so I'm sitting there without a dishwasher, washing dishes by hand. And if you might remember, the last time I was at Whiskey Town with these two, I dropped a kayak on my toe, which I promise I won't do again this time. Keep those kayaks away from me. And broke my toe. So I'm sitting here doing dishes with a broken toe, standing there for half an hour to an hour trying to wash dishes. Not my joy. I'm competent at it, not my joy. I confessed the first service. I guess I have to confess to these people too, don't I? Yeah, it's on video. 3 times, which is a number of completion, you'll notice. I sinned. I loaded my dishes into the car and drove them over here and used the dishwasher in the kitchen. I did bring my own dishwashing detergent, so I didn't, I was trying to keep the cost of the church low. Finally, last week I said, I've had enough of this. I've had enough of this. It was when my daughter and her fiance were here visiting a couple weeks ago, and they left behind, with the 3 of us left behind, a big pile of dishes to do. And I'm sitting there with my broken toe in the boot, and hurting. Notice there's no boot today? I've been boot-free for about 3 days now. You're next. And so we've been trading jokes about our wounded appendages here. So I finally said, there's got to be a solution. There's got to be a solution. Even if I have to buy one of those roll-away dishwashers and stick it in my bedroom and roll it back out, I'm going to do that. Because there's not room in my kitchen for one of those roll-aways. So I went online and I started looking at putting portable dishwasher, and you know what? There are countertop dishwashers. I didn't know that. One's arriving tomorrow at my house. So that's handling the zone of competence. I now no longer have to spend time doing dishes in the traditional way. I can just stick them right back in that machine, which will get them more sanitized anyways than the hot water that I can use, and all that good stuff. And so I can wash dishes that way. I can free myself up to do other important things, like drink umbrella drinks and have the pool girl come over. I have to give you my address. I'm going to get myself in trouble here. I'm just going to get myself in trouble here. That's our zone of competence. I can change the oil on my car. I'm a guy. I can change the oil on my car. But after several years of I majored in automotive technology my first year in college. I used to be able to take engines apart and put them back together, and they ran, and all that kind of stuff, and ran well. But I finally got tired of crawling underneath the car, wrapping my knuckles around on the stuff, trying to find, the newer ones are harder to find where the oil filter is, to change the oil filter and get any kind of a grip on that. And then you do that and the oil dumps in your face or down your sleeve and stuff like that. And then what do you do with the oil that you collect and all like that? I finally said it's cheaper to pay $25 to $30 to have somebody else do it. That's operating and getting out of our zone of competence. Number 3 is a little more seductive zone. It's our zone of excellence. It's our zone where we operate and we're really, really good at it. We're better than a lot of other people at this zone, at whatever it is that we do. We're operating in our zone of excellence. Many of us have made our living in our zone of excellence because it's what we do well. There's one thing missing from our zone of excellence. It's not our sole joy. It's not that which deeply fulfills our heart and our soul and our being. We're just really, really good at it. Some of us have stayed in jobs or stayed in fields and careers because each time we get the urge to move on or something urges us to move on, we say, yeah, but I'm so good at sales, or I'm so good at this over here, or I'm so good at whatever it is, I'm going to go back into that because I know I can make a living there. I know I can make a good living there. Even though the soul is screaming, get out! Any of you besides me ever? Yeah. And so our zone of excellence is addictive. It's comfortable, it's reliable, but it's addictive. If we have a family, the family likes us to stay in that zone because, if we're bringing in the money from that zone and bringing in good money from that zone, stay in that zone. Don't mess around. Why mess with a good thing? If it ain't fixed, don't break. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. It's a seductive trap because what happens is that deep sacred soul within us withers and dies because we're not expressing it. We're not tapping into that. And so that moves us then into our 4th zone, the zone that I'm going to encourage you to move into and to live more and more from. And that's what Gay Hendricks calls the zone of genius. Our zone of genius, which is really where you might say we're letting Spirit move through us in the way that it uniquely moves through you and each one of us. It's where we're here giving the gift that we really truly came here to give on the planet. And some of you will say, I have no clue what that gift is. And we're here to start to play with that idea today. Because I'm going to give you a series of questions in a minute that will start to pull that out. I want to read to you Gay Hendricks' definition of this zone of genius. Liberating and expressing your natural genius is your ultimate path to success and life satisfaction. See, in zone of excellence, we can be successful, but we're not satisfied in that deep life satisfaction way. Do you know the difference? Yes. Okay, Luke does. Anybody else know the difference? Yes. Okay, good. Thank you. Just checking. Your zone of genius is the set of activities you are uniquely suited to do. They draw upon your special gifts and strengths. Your zone of genius beckons you with increasingly strong calls as you go through your life. By age 40, many of us have tuned out the call of genius and are getting loud, repeated alarms hidden in the form of depression, illness, injuries, and relationship conflict. Those alarms are reminding us to spend more time feeding our natural genius and let it do its magic in the world. And if you got that, you don't have to make it happen. You have to feed it and let it do its magic. When you're working your zone of genius, you're being the God self that you're here to be, and you don't have to force anything. It starts to just unfold. How many of you have been in that at least for a little tiny moment or short period of time in your life? And so you feel that. You know what that's like. And those of you who haven't, just imagine, trust me, it's there. Trust me, it's there, and it's there for you. So we're going to play with some questions to ponder, and these are not questions to problem solve. They're just questions to ponder. They're questions to, with a childlike wonder, to wonder about. I wonder. And so the first one is, what do I love to do? What do I love to do? What is it that I can just do for a long period of time, and time just flies, and I'm having fun, and I don't care? And I invite you to contemplate these questions. I'm going to give you 4. You may want to jot them down or think about that. What do I love to do? This is, by the way, not the point where you sit there and go, and so now how can I turn that into a job? How can I make a 6-figure income doing? No, you're just wondering, what do I love? Just paying attention to, what do I love? Just paying attention to, when I'm doing this, by the time flies. I'm sure that for Dalton, when he's involved in music, the time probably just flies. And you could do music forever. Probably his mom has to remind him to eat and sleep once in a while. What do I most love to do? Second, what work do I do that doesn't seem like work? What do I do that doesn't seem like work? I can do it all day long without getting tired, fatigued, bored, any of that stuff. Take a breath. What can I do all day, or what can I do that doesn't seem like work? See, I've had various times in my life where, for a long time I was an events coordinator, and at that point in time in my life, it was my zone of genius. I was also excellent at it, but it was my zone of genius. I loved it. It's one of those, I would have done it whether you paid me or not sort of things, but I was happy to be paid. Today, ministry is my zone of genius. You probably noticed. I love this. I seem to be decently good at it.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. I'll pay you later. It's my zone of genius. I was joking with the first service. I would do this whether you pay me or not. Please continue to pay me, but I would do this whether you... I would do some form of ministry whether I get paid or not. My last church couldn't pay me very much, and so I kept on doing it because I knew it was mine to do. I knew it was the right thing to do, and it keeps on walking. So what is it that's work that you do that doesn't seem like work? Number 3, in my work, when I'm doing stuff, what is it that produces the highest amount of happiness and satisfaction for the amount of time that I spend? What is it that produces the highest amount of abundance and satisfaction? If I want to be a writer, if my zone of genius is writing, but the first thing I do before I ever sit down at the typewriter is make sure that my house is completely clean, okay, and the lawn is mowed and all that good stuff, I'm putting the other stuff first, my majoring and minors first, before doing what's my zone of genius. If my zone of genius is being a writer, I sit down and I write. I'll take care of the housework later. It'll be fine. I hire somebody to do the housework if I can. But I take care of the housework later. I do my zone of genius first. What is it that produces, for the amount of time that I spend, the highest amount of time? When I was in my 20s, I was a photographer. That was my joy then. That was my zone of genius. But I worked for Aetna Life and Casualty as in the insurance field. And I would quite often get up real early in the morning, get dressed for work, drive out to Mount Hood. I was living in Portland, Oregon at the time. Drive out to Mount Hood or somewhere out, to catch a sunrise, to catch an early dawn. I love to work on the margins of light, both beginning of the day and end of the day stuff, and nature stuff and nature details. And so I'd go out and I'd do that for an hour or two before work. And sometimes this was like getting up at 3:30 in the morning. These days I don't do that anymore, but those times really do exist. I found out then. And I'd go out there and I'd do that, and I'd come back to work, and I'd already spent 2 hours in my zone of genius. I was happy. I was fulfilled. I could do the boring insurance stuff I needed to do, the rest of the way. I was excellent at that. I could go back and make a living in my zone of excellence, but I'd spent time in my zone of genius. And after a while, it had built up where I was starting to sell photographs, and I was starting to have, billboards using my photographs up there for companies that paid for them and stuff like that. Okay? Never became a full living, but it became something that I could do well. So how much Do you spend time in your zone of genius? You spend time in that area where you just absolutely feel enjoy, and you stop majoring in the minors of your life. You major in the majors. You major in what it is that you really came here to do. So that's the third question. The fourth question is, what is my unique ability? What is my unique ability? And this is the one where a lot of us get stuck. Because most of the time, our unique ability is so natural and so normal to us, and we think so little of it. It's like, well, doesn't everybody do that? It's like when I got the call to ministry finally, and I think I've shared, it was actually my ex-wife going to ministerial, information program, and I just went along with her. I wasn't going to be a minister. I was happy as a practitioner. But as I drove home after that meeting, I went, why wouldn't I? I was the kid who was building altars in the basement, practicing saying Mass, while my friends were out playing baseball. I've been the Taoist, I've been the Zen Buddhist, I've been in love with God for my whole life, and that's just the natural thing that I do. I've been just in relationship with God in some way or other my whole life. Even when I was spending my 2 years as an evangelical atheist, I was in a relationship with God. We were having a fight, but I was in a relationship, It was important to my whole life. And when we're in that zone of genius, it's like, well, yeah, but isn't everybody like that? And no, not everybody's like that. Not everybody does and loves what you love. So what's your unique gift? And oftentimes it comes wrapped in other things. By the way, the unique gift doesn't mean you're the only one on the planet who does it. Have you noticed that there are other ministers out there? In fact, we have several really excellent ones here. And each one brings their unique expression of ministry, who they are, to ministry. But I bring a particularly unique expression that's different than the unique expression that Reverend Sue brings, or that Reverend Mary, or that Reverend Pam, or that Reverend Kay brings. And yet each of us works in our zone of genius when we're doing our ministry. So it's not that you're the only one on the planet who has this gift, but you have a particularly unique way of expressing it that you take for granted. I love he uses a metaphor for talking to his children about this. He said, if you were a superhero, and by the way, you are. You all are. Got it? You are all superheroes. If you were a superhero, what would your unique superpower be? Play with that question. What's my superpower? And oftentimes it seems so simple, so basic. I really understand how people feel. I can feel the energy in a room. I'm very good at calculations and math. Just stuff like, well, but so what? It's when we do that dismissal of so what, that we dismiss our gift. What is my unique gift? What is it that gives me joy that I can just do for hours? I remember one time I was working on a little detailed map thing for the city of Seattle, and a couple people walked by, and I was having fun. I used to build models when I was a little kid, and so I'm sitting there with an X-Acto knife cutting out little teeny tiny acetate sheets that had little different codes on them and putting them on a map. This is long before the days of computers. And some people would walk by me, and I'm happy. I'm just content. I'm doing it well. It wasn't my joy, but it was my excellence. And people would walk by me and go, "Ooh, I can't even watch you do that," because it wasn't anywhere near their unique gift or their joy. So, what is your unique gift? What is your superpower? So when we're in that, we're in our zone of genius, we start to feel more fulfilled. We start to live from the soul outward. So my invitation this week is to start to pay attention to what? Start to pay attention to what your heart is calling you to do, to be, to express. And to live more in that. What you will find is that your zone of genius is a spiral. That as you start to get onto the spiral, as you start to play with it, it spirals upwards. It lifts you upward. Gay has a great phrase. He says, get out of the box and onto the spiral. Most of us have a box around ourselves. Most of us have a box around our lives. Get out of the box and get onto a spiral. Lift up. It will lift you up. You don't have to make it happen. You let the spiral do it. He has a wonderful phrase, a wonderful mantra we're going to close with real quick here. I'm going to close by reading, but we're going to close by saying this together. And the phrase is this, the mantra is this: I expand in abundance, success, and love every day as I inspire those around me to do the same. Isn't that great? So let's say that together. I expand in love, success, and abundance.
I expand in love, success, and abundance.
Every day.
Every day.
As I inspire those around me, to do the same. I expand in love, success, and abundance every day as I inspire others to do the same. Are you willing to live that this week?
Yes.
Great. I invite you to take that as your mantra, to play with that. And I'm going to close with the reading that we started with from Ernest Holmes and talk about that for a moment. The spiral of life is upward. Here we are talking about the spiral. The spiral of life is upward. What that means is you don't have to make it happen. You get on the spiral of life, it's like an escalator. You don't have to force the escalator to shove those things. You don't shove the steps up, do you? Do you? No. I don't. I'm just, okay. Just checking. The spiral of life is upward. All we got to do is write it. Evolution carries us forward, not backward. It carries us, not vice versa. Get that thing off your back that you've been carrying along as a burden for some of you. Eternal and progressive expansion is its law, and there are no breaks in its continuity. It doesn't stop doing that. It doesn't sit there and go, I'm going to do that 3/4 of the time, then 1/4 of the time, I'm going to just drop you. It doesn't do that. It seems to me that our evolution is the result of an unfolding consciousness of that which already is and needs but to be realized to become a fact of everyday life. All we are doing is becoming conscious of what already is. Your zone of genius already exists within you, and all you're doing is becoming conscious of it, becoming aware of it. Would you be willing to do that?
Yes.
Great. So that's our role this week. And what he says at the end of this reading then is that with all these facts that confront us, we should learn to trust life. There is no power in the universe which wishes anyone ill. Life is good, and God is good. Why not accept this and begin to live? So your assignment this week is to live. And I don't mean exist. I mean live. Take a breath. To start to play with that question, what do I love to do? And to start to do more of that. Are you willing to go there? Yes. Are you willing to boldly go where you've never gone before? All right, let's pray. So I know that there is one infinite presence, always evolving, always spiraling, always expressing and expanding for greater and greater and greater good. And that all we got to do is hop on that train. Because we are already one of that train. We are already one of the nature of the good. We are not the nature of the divine, the nature of the infinite presence that truly wants to express ever more of itself. And all we have to do is say yes and accept the fact that we already are that. There is nothing in the way accepting our own ideas about it. And so I speak my word that today we do accept that. Today, each person here, each person who hears this, each person who watches this video, hears this, expresses this, and says yes to the good that is already theirs in a greater way than ever before. And that each of us is blessed, and then we are a blessing to the world. That our light, by turning our light on, by letting it shine more brightly than ever, we light up other lights in this world. And so we bless, we expand, we inspire, we move this true nature of the divine that we are through us and out into this world. We don't have to force it or make it happen. We let it happen. We let the nature of the divine do its thing through us. And its thing through us is what we just call the zone of genius. That which we love. That's what God loves to do as us. Because that love, that which we love to do, is what God loves through us. And so we say yes to God. We say yes to that God nature within us, that spirit within us, that essence within us that is trying to express. We finally say, yes, I'm getting out of the way. I'm letting you come out and play and have your way. I'm not going to try and figure out the how. I'm not going to try and make it logical. I'm willing to let how good can my life get be the dance that I do. And so I invite each of us to have that as our motto, to have that as our consciousness. And so I'm grateful for the good that comes out of that. I'm grateful for the blessing that each person here is already, and the blessing that each of us allows to come through us in a greater way. I release the how it shows up into the law, which is where it belongs. We don't have to work it. We simply say yes. We let the law manifest it, and it is done in human form right here, right now, in our lives, and so it is. Thank you.